Hello, and welcome to the Proactive Caregiving Podcast. As a CPA with over 20 years as an industry accountant, Jessica stepped away from the corporate world to become a full-time caregiver for her mother. Having learned invaluable lessons along the way, she is now here to share those with you and to invite you to join her on this caregiver's journey. Here is your host, Jessica Cannon.
Hello, everybody. I am so glad you're here with me today. I am the Proactive Caregiver, and I specialize in educating others on how to be proactive by empowering you, the caregiver. If you cannot take care of yourself, then you cannot take care of your loved one. And along those thoughts, I wanted to share with you today that from what I've noticed, there are so many caregivers that are created to fulfill many different needs. And sometimes it's caring for more than one person. Caregivers do not acknowledge often that they are a caregiver because of their relationship with their loved one. But during the struggles of our journey, we tend to create a mindset of lack and resentment, which focuses our journey on what's impossible instead of what's possible. I wanted to have my dear friend, Meriam Boldewijn, back on. She was on a previous episode released April 2nd called Caregiver Hope. And just so you remember from back then, Meriam was born and raised in South America. She later moved to the Netherlands, where she's lived for the last 31 years. As a wife, a writer, an entrepreneur, and now a caregiver life coach, she proves we can change our thoughts of impossible to possible by having faith in the universe. Her appetite for adventure and her acceptance to change, it came after experiencing firsthand feelings of fear, self-doubt, and burnout as a caregiver. Fear of the unknown took Meriam and her husband on a journey through dialysis, transplant, and self-discovery together. After 20 years of caregiving for her husband battling diabetes and a brother after a stroke, she was inspired to share her story, which she published, and I'm so excited and proud of her. She published in June 2021, Caregiver 2.0, From Burnout to Powerhouse. This is available in select stores and online and Amazon. She shares her lessons and compassion for lessons learned, valuable lessons learned through caring for her family. She also shares this through her Caregiver 2.0 6-week online course. And if you're finding yourself in burnout, I highly recommend you check her out. So today, Meriam, thank you so much for coming on with me. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Jessica. You have no idea how grateful I am that you've invited me again.
Absolutely.
On your show. And in the last 6 months, so much happened. We had our conversation 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And so much happened. I can't wait to tell the audience more about what I've experienced in the last 6 months.
So since the book, when we first talked, you were in the process of completing the book and anticipating that release. And now that it's been out, your story is out there. Do you feel like a huge weight has been lifted from your shoulders after sharing this story?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so grateful that my story is out in the world now. I can make a difference in people's lives, even more with my book. So not only via interviews or via magazines, but they can read my book. And you know what I'm excited about, Jessica? We don't know where our books will end up.
Right. You never
it
know.
can end up it can end up in a village in Peru, in the mountains of Argentina, where a doctor works, and that doctor needs to learn how to own his or her well-being.
Exactly.
So you don't know where your book will end up. So I'm really grateful that it's in the world. My story is in the world now. People from all over the world can access my book.
Absolutely. Because this is how we learn. We learn from each other.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
I love that you started the book, and even in your introductory, the way you mentioned, I belong to the universe. Like a very bold, strong declaration, right off the bat. And this is one of the concepts that helps me even and helped me early on in my caregiving journey, because the more I acknowledged that, the more it seemed like the weight of the caregiving, it was there, but it wasn't as deep. And it just made me want to acknowledge it and connect with it more and more. So, do you feel like caregivers would find more peace in their life if they understood how to connect to our universe?
I'm speaking from my perspective, but I do think that they will find more peace if they understand how to connect with the universe. And I wrote this sentence. I did it on purpose because I hope that the reader, whether it's a caregiver or a non-caregiver, will think about this sentence. Who do you belong to? Because it's not only about praying or meditating. After you have connected with the universe and asked for something, you have to believe that you will receive what you've asked for. But it requires for you to take action as well. So when I was in the dark, Jessica, I needed to learn how to connect with the universe. I was kind of lost and I didn't know where to start until Martin's acupuncturist suggested us to do Qigong and Reiki. And I was hesitant because I said, no, I don't have time for that. And what's that? What's Qigong? It was unknown for me. I didn't want to get out of my comfort zone.
Right.
But later, when we started, because Martin wanted to give it a try, and I discovered that connecting with the universe, that it was such a benefit for both of us. And I thank God for that. So every morning when I wake up, I pray and I meditate. And I ask for strength to guide caregivers. That's one of the things I ask every morning. And I believe that I can guide them. That's why I wrote in my book, I ask, I believe, and I receive.
Absolutely. And there's so much power behind that. It's very hope-filling when you can focus on that. I know when I talk to certain individuals and I mention, if I have my worries, my stresses, I let it go and I give it to God. And there's that deer in the headlights kind of stare where they just don't really understand that. They don't know, because that the feelings that they're going through, that they're experiencing, they're so profound, so deep that it's hard to even think, is it really that simple to just let it go? But it's a process. It's not just done. I wished it away. It's a process.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. I had to learn that when you think of something, do you believe it can actually happen? When you ask for something, do you believe that it can happen? And it's a process. I'm not gonna lie, it took me quite some time
me too.
to learn this. But once I discovered the benefits for both of us, how I felt, the relief I felt, I decided that I should do this every morning.
Yes. Yeah.
I decided that I should do it every single day. And, you know, there are times that when I wake up, I'm in a rush for one reason or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, it doesn't happen very often, but then I do it later.
Right. Right. Catch up to
As
it.
long as I do it, as long as I do it.
You know, and that's where I think the struggle is with letting go, because until we start doing it on a regular basis and we create this routine and we start to feel the release of it, of whatever it is that's weighing us down emotionally, it's hard to see it. It's hard to believe it. It's hard to say it, because I think some caregivers who their loved ones are very ill and they're just continuing to get worse. And so it's like, I'm asking, I've been praying, I'm asking, and I'm not receiving, but not recognizing not only are you in a process, but your loved one's in a process too.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. We are both in a process, and it takes a lot of courage, communication, mutual respect.
Yes.
To go through this journey together. You do it together.
Right.
I always told people who were asking, how are you coping with Martin's dialysis? And I always said, you know, we do this together. We are in this process together.
Absolutely.
It's not only Martin's dialysis, it's our dialysis.
Mm-hmm. And that's a change of mindset. That is a very good, healthy, positive change of mindset. It's not just him experiencing this and you're there to pick up the pieces afterwards. You're there as a unit. And that's where that personal power comes in. So, knowing what you do now with Martin's care, do you feel like there's anything you would have changed if you could go back?
There are certain things that I simply don't want to change. For instance, in my book, I write about how I had to clean Martin's ulcer. Martin has neuropathy, and the nerves under his foot are damaged because of diabetes.
Right.
So he can walk with a pin in his foot without feeling anything. So that's why he's not allowed to walk with bare feet. And he got an ulcer under his foot, Jessica, and it was almost an inch deep, all the way up to his bone. So I had to learn how to clean the ulcer. And I chose to do it myself, because otherwise I would have to drive him back and forth to the hospital every single day. So I asked for help. I asked the medical professionals for help, and I asked them, how can I do this myself? Because I will be overwhelmed if I have to drive 7 days a week to the hospital.
Yes, no kidding.
So I learned how to clean the ulcer. And when it was finally healed, I thought, okay, it's done. So I wasn't paying attention, and neither was Martin. So the ulcer came back, and then I had to start a cleaning process over again. So with this, I want to say that I had to change, not the process, but I had to change the way of thinking, the way of checking his food. Now I check his food daily, on a daily basis, to avoid stress.
Right.
So that's something I changed when it comes to his care needs.
That's interesting. Instead of waiting for a need to arise or for it to be worse.
Yes. Yeah. And to prevent stress. But because it comes with stress, we have to be careful when it comes to his health, my health as well.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that works fine, I'm not changing, but I'm still learning every single day. I'm still learning. If something doesn't work, we tweak it and try it and see if that works.
And that's
So
beautiful.
yeah,
Because that's what I see, that when you think about your personal power, it's, again, for me, the way my mind works and learn. Sometimes I'll say these or come across these concepts and think, how do I achieve that? Because I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know what it feels like. So for you and Martin, this teamwork, this caregiving has
yes,
evolved into a teamwork. And
yeah,
I can see now this is how you and Martin both have found your power together and not give in to the
exactly,
fear or the self-doubt or the burnout
exactly,
anymore.
exactly. Fear, I'm happy you brought this up. Fear is a killer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the day, Jessica, when I had to call the paramedics because Martin's blood sugar was so low, he could get into a coma. And I didn't sleep that night because I was constantly watching him if he was breathing. And it's totally understandable. We're human and we're afraid that something bad might happen to our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want that to happen.
Oh,
Okay. So I was very afraid to sleep. But if I didn't get sleep, I would
yeah,
be overwhelmed. And that's what happened.
exactly.
So at a certain point, I had to choose to win from fear. And that also goes for Martin. So we chose to win from fear and live our lives and not wait for the moment that it will go wrong, because we don't know when that will happen. So we chose not to let fear rob us from our lives. So we communicate better. I'm not in his head, he's not in mine. So we were forced to communicate better.
Yes.
We set boundaries. If he asked me to do something for him and I've scheduled that time for myself, unless it's life-threatening, Jessica, I say no. But I expect the same from him, that when I ask him to do something and he has scheduled his self-care moment, he should be able to say no to me, but offer help at another time. So we are taking care of each other. We are both doing self-care. And when I see that he's postponing his self-care moment, I remind him of the importance of self-care, and he does the same.
That's good.
So we look after ourselves, and it's so good to know that there's someone who's got your back.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like that's what helps strengthen the journey. It strengthens the relationship, because I know when I went through my surgery and eventually had an emergency trip to the hospital for a pulmonary embolism, coming out of it, feeling that first feeling the progress and the strength, my own personal physical strength coming back, and then having a setback and feeling like the rug was just ripped out of all of my progress, but knowing I had confidence that my husband was there every step of the way, and he was supporting me in ways and caring for me where that gave me strength.
Yeah. It's such a wonderful feeling knowing that someone's got your back. Someone is reminding you. Because sometimes I can keep going and going. And even though I'm reminded of my self-care moments, because I schedule my self-care moments, I get a reminder on my phone.
Good for you.
Like, yeah, it's your breathing moment, Meriam, or it's your meditation moment, or it's time to move away from your laptop because your eyes need some rest. Those are all of the small things that I've incorporated into my daily life. Just small things, but it works. It works for
Yes,
me. And I'm pretty sure that it will work for others as long
absolutely.
as you do it, as long as you take action. Those are all baby steps.
Yes, baby steps that become bigger steps that build a
Yeah,
momentum towards
yeah,
that lifestyle change.
yeah.
So, one of the things you mentioned earlier was asking for help. And you also mentioned this in your book about asking for help as a child wasn't a problem. But what I think is interesting is, caregivers, even if we were able to, as a child, say, I need help with this, whether it was getting dressed or um, bathing or something that was like logical common sense to us, but then we become adults, somehow that ability to ask for help just kind of goes away. So what do you think happens from the time of our childhood innocence to becoming the caregiver who is suddenly afraid to ask for help? What do you think that where that comes from?
I think I think it comes from society.
Mm,
Society that says you should do this or that to be this or that.
yes.
For instance, you should be, in my case, it was, I believe that I should be a size 6
Mm,
to be able to wear a white dress. And, this is one of the reasons why I started my web shop for full figured women years
mm,
ago. Because I wanted to show the world that full figured women are also beautiful in a
yes.
white dress. Everybody is beautiful. And I succeeded. So society um, tells us what to do and what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
We compare ourselves to others. And when we are, um, as an adult, you are afraid of being judged. And I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid that what people might think of me. I have my pride. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be embarrassed, Jessica.
Yeah, I didn't
So
either.
um, I had to change my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, what really helped me, I was thinking of what would the 7-year-old Miriam do?
Mm, interesting.
Because as a child, I wasn't afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
What would the 7-year-old Miriam do right now? And I also thought of what my parents taught me as a child. Miriam, you are enough.
Mm,
And these two things helped me, gave me the courage to ask for help as well.
that's
And
beautiful.
so, anyone who's listening, if no one ever told you that you are enough, I'm telling you now, you
Yes.
are enough.
Yes. That is one of the areas that I really struggled with because years ago, when I took my mom into the doctor's office for, it was just a real quick check for urinary tract infection. And at that time, I was still working, trying to balance care for her and my career. And so it was supposed to be a real quick stop. I knew based off of the things that she was describing that she had a urinary tract infection, which meant she just needed antibiotics and we just needed to go through the process of her peeing in the cup. I
Mm-hmm.
simplified it. But when I went into the doctor's office with her, one of the nurses right away told me, started to describe senior neglect as, and kept looking at mom and describing this is what senior neglect is. And she told me, I know you think you're doing enough, but you're not doing enough. And it really hurt. It was like a punch in the gut because I felt like I was doing so much for her and trying to balance incredible amounts. And so then after that, going forward, I really struggled asking anybody for help because I felt like
Yeah.
even from that outward perspective from society that this is my responsibility, this is my parent, I must take care of her. I even had a hard time asking for my husband to help if it was something around her house, maintenance or yard work or something. I felt like it was my job, my responsibility. But the only time I was able to actually ask for help back then was when it was something I physically couldn't handle. If it was a task that I couldn't, it was too high for me to reach, or it was too heavy to lift, or when it was something physical that stopped me from doing it.
Yeah.
So that created burnout really fast because I wanted to take it all on. But I think it's so beautiful that the difference in our childhood upbringing to show that you are enough. In fact, after a while, my husband printed a frame for me, and it actually is on my desk that says, I am enough, so that I can see that every day that I work. I am enough. I am enough. And it is one of my daily affirmations during my meditations as well.
I love it. I love it. And when you see it, you are reminded of it. Mm-hmm. So your brain starts getting used to it.
Exactly.
Because you are seeing it. And that's why in my 6-week online program, I tell my clients, write it down. Because when you write it down, you are more likely to do it. You see it, write it down. And journaling, get it out of your head.
Yes, it's like a brain download.
So, society has decided for so many people what to do and not to do. Mm-hmm. But use this trick. Think about, what would you, as a 7-year-old child, what would you do?
That's interesting. Yeah, it takes me through a couple of thoughts myself of needing help or doing something because I didn't want somebody to notice that I needed help. Even as a young child, trying to show that image of strength, that I was capable. So it's very interesting. And I think that difference is why we need positive influences and people who can provide that example as you did in your book. It's really helpful.
Yeah. And I had to suspend all the disbeliefs, all the thoughts of what I was capable of. I really had to train my brain. Meriam, you are capable of doing this or that. This is possible for you. Mm-hmm. I really had to train my brain. And it took me a while to train my brain. Because I could come up with 10 impossibilities before I could come up with one possibility. So I'm honest when it comes to changing my mindset, that it did not happen overnight.
Oh yeah, it doesn't.
Don't think that you can go to sleep and the next morning you wake up, oh, I'm going to do this or that.
No, exactly.
It won't work. It won't happen.
It takes a lot of courage, which is why I think, yet again, and I love the way you pointed this out in your book, that changing your mind from, because I think it's just human nature when the weight of the world weighs down on us. It's human nature to point out what we can't do or what's impossible rather than to be positive and forge ahead on what is possible. So I think when caregivers focus on that impossibility in their journey, they don't realize that focusing on that impossibility and allowing those thoughts to fester more, that they're creating their own feelings of loneliness and isolation. But I like the way you and Martin found the courage to step outside of your comfort zone. And one thing, for example, continue to share that passion for adventure and try to travel outside of his medical treatments. Can you share with us what it's like to do that and how it was possible for you?
Well, I love that you bring this up. Martin started with peritoneal dialysis. And when he started, I thought, okay, holidays are over. It's done. We can't travel anymore. With peritoneal dialysis, the fluid bags, they weigh almost 4.5 pounds. So he needed 3 of those bags a day. And when you travel, you're allowed to carry, I think, 30 pounds. Is it 30 pounds? So for a 7-day holiday, we would need over 46 pounds. Okay.
Wow.
So that's when I thought, okay, traveling is over. Until I called the Kidney Foundation and asked them what was possible. And they told me, oh, we can deliver all the fluid bags and medical supplies to the address, to your holiday address. I said, well, oh, that's great.
Yes.
But I was still hesitant because then the question, that negative chatter in my mind said, what if it goes wrong?
Of course.
And we wanted to go to Suriname. I wanted to visit my mother, which is a 9-hour flight from Amsterdam. And I started checking for possibilities. Are there nephrologists over there? How many flights are there per week? Is there a flight every day? I know my mom's place is safe and clean. I know that all the medical supplies can be delivered. So we did it. We went to Suriname. And Jessica, the result of this holiday was that I could spend time with my family. I could do self-care. I was in another environment. We were in a warm climate, which was great for Martin, who was always cold, feeling cold. I could recharge my battery. So once I discovered the possibility and the benefits of traveling between his medical appointments, I tried to plan a short break every 3 months so I could breathe.
Perfect.
And every time that negative chatter would say, what if? I flipped it and said, what if it all goes well?
Exactly.
Why should I wait for something to go wrong? Because I don't know if it will go wrong. I just don't know. And I'm happy we did. We had many holiday breaks. Sometimes we did a 4-day holiday break or a 7-day holiday break. Just short breaks during his time of dialysis.
Nice.
And that's how we continue traveling.
I love that. I love that because even when we're able to plan a trip, it gives me something to look forward to. I get excited. Even when it's time to start packing for it, I get so excited. It's a change in our routine. It's a change in scenery. It's just a metaphysical change altogether, that being able to have it. And when we're not able to, because life happens sometimes the way it does give me that feeling of lack and resentment and those thoughts of, if only this would happen, then that. If only I could. And I got stuck in a loop sometimes. But finding ways to make it possible, and it doesn't have to be something extravagant. That is awesome that they were able to do that for you and have shipped those supplies there to make it possible.
Yeah.
And then you guys got to continue living your lives together.
We had so much fun, and you were saying you have something to look forward to.
Yes.
I remember those days when Martin and I, when we knew that we would travel within 4 days, we started packing 2 days before together. We put on some music and then we started packing, and it's such a great feeling.
Yes.
And those are all small things that helped us in our journey.
Definitely small things that have major impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, because now you return from a vacation from holiday and you are refreshed.
Yeah. Rejuvenated, refreshed. Because I still worked.
Mm-hmm.
I still worked. And besides working full time, I was a caregiver. So I was really looking forward to those holidays to recharge my battery.
Exactly.
And I'm happy we were able to do it.
And now so you've gone through this whole journey, and it's not over by any means. This journey continues and you continue to learn. But at this point in time, you've gone through this journey of self-discovery with you and your husband together. And now you're able to explore and help others. Do you feel like by doing this now and being able to work and help others that it energizes you even more?
Yeah, absolutely. You have no idea how much energy I get from helping others. I'm pouring into people. I came from far, and I burned out while taking care of Martin. It's more than 20 years ago, but it feels like yesterday when I talk about it. And I had to discover many things. And one of the things I had to discover, Jessica, was how to love myself. I had to learn how to change my mindset, how to do self-care. But there were 5 mindset shifts I had to make before I could do self-care. Before I could do self-care, I had to change my mind. I had to do 5 mindset shifts. And one of them was changing from impossible to possible. That was the most important one. And I had to suspend all those disbeliefs, like I mentioned before. I had to allow myself to see what I am capable of. So I get a lot of energy. In my 6-week online program, I dive deeper into changing your mindset. Nice. And those 5 mindset shifts. And when I see that my clients get the results and that they see the benefits, I am celebrating their wins. I am celebrating their small and big wins. Small wins like, hey, Meriam, today I took a 10-minute break. I am celebrating that win.
Yes.
But I'm also celebrating the win. Hey, Meriam, I booked a 4-day trip. I celebrate wins. When we celebrate, we get energy.
Absolutely.
And we are more likely to repeat it.
That is so true.
I'm getting energy now that I'm talking about it. And inspiring, motivating, and transforming caregivers, Jessica. That's something that I'm happy I found my purpose. I'm happy I found my purpose.
Me too. Because of your purpose, we met.
Yeah. And when I give, I receive.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I love that energy. I love those positive vibes. Because I grow when others grow.
That's so true. It is so true. The growth, I didn't imagine being able to have this, but the more I helped my mother, the more I had to learn how to help her, the more I had to find acceptance along the way for all sorts of reasons. And when I finally took the time to meditate and other times to reflect, looking back, I had finally realized how much I had grown from the time I stepped in as a part-time caregiver to her full-time caregiver. I had grown so much.
Yeah. And you know what? You are not the Jessica you were yesterday.
No.
We change every day,
Not
every
even
single day.
not even the Jessica I was when we last visited and on the last podcast. Yes, I have
Yeah,
accepted that I am a new person inside and out, and
yeah,
having faith in the universe and taking the time to find ways to grow.
yeah,
It's a beautiful, lovely, accepting change in life.
yeah. And like I said before, I love it when others grow. When I see people growing, because I know what it feels like to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it feels like when you pull yourself out of a dark mess.
Yes.
I know how it feels like when you have the courage to ask for help, or when you grab fear and you grab courage,
Mm-hmm.
and you jump anyway. Because I jumped, I fell, I learned, and I jumped again.
Exactly.
That's what I did.
It's never perfect the first time.
No.
And even the second or third. That's one thing I love about this now is when I stopped seeking perfection, I started seeing far more lessons available and getting the deeper meanings behind them than looking for an easy way or a perfect way.
Yeah. And loving your imperfection. That's something big.
Absolutely.
Loving your imperfection.
It is huge because what I see now, in hindsight, every caregiver has a talent. Every caregiver has their own skill set, and they have them for a reason. And the more we connect with each other, the more we share our strengths. And to me, it's not even an issue of weaknesses anymore. It's leaning on the universe, and the universe presents other caregivers that strengthen my weakness or gives me an opportunity to share my strengths, which strengthens their weakness.
Yeah, we learn from each other.
Exactly.
And that's why I keep sharing my story.
Yes, and I'm so glad you did.
We often hear the stories of the patients and not the ones taking care of the patients.
Right.
So that's why I keep sharing my story. And I'm blown away by the impact it has on many people, both caregivers and non-caregivers, medical professionals, even my family that says, oh my gosh, Meriam, I didn't know that you went through such a difficult time.
Right.
And I tell them, you don't have to apologize for not helping. It was Meriam that needed the transformation.
Yes.
And now I'm transformed. And now I have the privilege and pleasure to guide other caregivers, to guide fellow caregivers.
And there's beauty in that. It's amazing to me because I needed the transformation. I needed a change of perspective. I needed a change in lifestyle.
Yeah.
Meriam, thank you so much for joining me again this time around. And I am so proud of you for working on your book and getting it completed and out there. And I wanted people to hear your story and be inspired and be so inspired that they would be interested in getting your book, Caregiver 2.0, From Burnout to Powerhouse. Because I truly see the powerhouse you have become, and now the others that are inspired to become their own powerhouse. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on your show for the second time. I hope I can be here for the third time and share some more.
Yes, because your journey is still evolving. It is not by any means over. So how do our listeners find you if they want to reach out to you to continue with possibly the course online?
So I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Clubhouse, Twitter, all Meriam Boldewijn. Via my website, you can read more about my program, my 6-week online program. I'm inviting all caregivers who want to know how to own their well-being to schedule a call with me. I love meeting people via Zoom. Let's see where you are in your journey and how I can help you.
Right.
That's my website, social media. That's where you can find me. Follow me on social media because I share self-care tips on social media. Sometimes I go live. So there's where you can find me. And the last thing I want to say is please know that you are worthy of a wonderful life too. Know that you are worthy of a wonderful life too. Know that you are enough. Know that you are doing your best with the knowledge you have today. And that you are doing a great job. And that I appreciate you for what you are doing.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Meriam Boldewijn, great friend of mine. I really enjoyed this time with her. I hope this gave you more food for thought. And until next time, be proactive. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about proactive caregiving and to hear other episodes of this podcast, please visit www.jessicalazelcannon.com. This podcast is produced by Canon Light Media, LLC, www.canonlightmedia.com. Music provided by Chris Paradise.